Reserve Bank's decision to hold interest rates and not deliver a much-desired cut has shocked many Australian homeowners. A short time ago, I spoke to Shadow Treasurer Ted O'Brien on what he thought of the RBA's call.
Well, to put it in context, Julia, the RBA's decision means that the average mortgage holder has to continue paying around about $1,900 extra in their interest payments than they were before the Albanese government came to office. So it's a big deal, and you can understand why millions of Australians are so disappointed that they aren't looking at an interest rate cut. I think what we have to be careful of, though, is not to be blaming the Reserve Bank. We have to look at the underlying reasons, and really responsibility lies on the shoulders of Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers. It's very clear that interest rates in Australia have been too high for too long because of government spending, which has kept inflation high. And as the Governor of the Reserve Bank has made clear, there's also been such a poor performance in productivity, it is limiting the options available to the bank.
In that press conference, the Governor, Michelle Bullock, though, really did note the volatility overseas as one of the reasons for the hold this time around, also wanting that quarterly inflation data. Now that we see this threat from Donald Trump of further tariffs, is that going to prevent the likelihood of a cut in August, or do you think that's still on the cards?
Oh, look, I'll let the Governor speak to the likelihood of a cut in their next meeting. You are right, though. She certainly did speak about the international volatility of the global economy, and that's right. Of course, Australia is not in a vacuum here. Other countries are also facing volatility, and it's worth noting that jurisdictions like Europe, Canada, closer to home, New Zealand, saw multiple cuts in interest rates up to 8 months before Australia saw its first cut after 12 rises under this government. And so the federal government has been too slow to act. Recent news today that we might be seeing the United States slap a 200% tariff on our pharmaceutical exports is deeply concerning, and again reinforces the need for the Prime Minister to meet the President face-to-face, Julia. I think that only accentuates the need for leadership.
I love that acronym, TACO, Trump always chickens out. He's used this as a negotiating tactic for quite some time, but do you think these threats are real?
Oh, look, I don't want to double guess anyone, much less the President of the United States, but it should come as no surprise to the government, which is why I'm just so angry that the Prime Minister has not prioritised a relationship with the United States. People have been talking about the threat to our pharmaceutical sector through tariffs for months now, but the government has not taken adequate action. Any tariffs against the sector should be opposed. They fly in the face of the spirit of our relationship with the United States and our free trade agreement. But it's up to the Governor of the day to prosecute the case. And unless our Prime Minister himself is prepared to sit face-to-face and negotiate with the President of the United States, then we're always going to be negotiating with one arm tied behind our back.
So to stave off the impact of these tariffs, what would you be putting on the negotiating table? The government said the PBS isn't up for negotiation, so what would the coalition offer if in government?
Well, there's no doubt that it shouldn't be up for negotiation. We shouldn't be jeopardising our own sectors, but relationships come first. If you want to have an effective negotiation, then it has to be done between the Prime Minister and the President. Now, ultimately, there has been discussion about critical minerals and the like, all very good ideas. But my background before politics, Julia, was in business and doing a lot of negotiation work, mergers, acquisitions, joint ventures and the like, and doing them internationally. Relationships count. The relationship between the Prime Minister of Australia and the United States President is absolutely key. If we are to negotiate a satisfactory outcome, they have to prioritise that relationship. The buck stops with the Prime Minister. That should be his priority. That's where it starts.
Just on the RBA board, we know there's more transparency now. We got a glimpse of how the board voted with the 6 members wanting a hold, 3 opting for a cut. Discussion about whether the identities of those board members and the arguments as to how they voted should be made public. The Governor yesterday said this would stifle debate and increase the risk of lobbying. What's your view?
I think the Governor's right in that regard. I'm not concerned that there was some different views around the table of the RBA. That is as it should be. Of course, like any board of directors, there will be times when resolutions are carried with great support, with unanimity at times, and that's fine. But there are other times where there's healthy debate and different people can have different views. I have no problem whatsoever with there being healthy debate around the table of the Reserve Bank. We've got to be very careful that the RBA is not politicised. And that is why, again, my key message today is, while we're all disappointed that interest rates aren't coming down sooner, really the responsibility for why lies on the shoulders of Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers. And so I think the RBA is right to say we're not going to start saying, you know, this director voted that way, the other one this way. We've got to be very careful that we respect their ongoing independence.
I want to get your thoughts on the economic reform roundtable coming up next month. The RBA citing stagnant productivity as one of the concerns at the moment. The Prime Minister ruling out raising the GST, wouldn't say whether he would be in favour of reducing income tax. What would the coalition want to put forward next month?
Well, I have to say this roundtable, which I will be attending, by the way, Julia, is starting to sound like a bit of a very narrow talk fest. So the Treasurer went out, announced we're going to have a roundtable on economic reform. Open-minded he will be, non-ideological he will be. But now we find out that there are potential solutions around tax reform they will not consider. Industrial relations they will not consider. And so as every day goes by, it doesn't sound like they're being open-minded at all. It doesn't sound like they're being non-ideological. So here's hoping this is not just a talk fest on a very narrow ideological scope of topics decided by the Prime Minister and the Treasurer. If I have one thing to put on the table up front, Julia, it's this. If we want to improve productivity in this country, the one tax reform the government is looking at introducing, which is a tax on unrealised capital gains through its superannuation tax, should be dumped. This is anti-aspiration, anti-productivity, anti-investment. It will hurt young Australians today and as their careers progress. This is about turning a savings mechanism for families into a tax grab for the Labor Party.
It'll certainly be a big showdown when Parliament returns. We're about to run out of time, but really want to get your thoughts on the fact that some New South Wales Liberals are pushing for US-style primaries as a way to boost gender representation in the party, with local voters to be given a say in selecting candidates, even if they're not paid-up members of the party. What do you think of this plan?
Well, firstly, can I say that I'm deeply disappointed that we had so many fantastic candidates run at the last election who didn't get up. We had, I don't know if it was 26, 27 female candidates who are absolutely first class, who I wish were in the Parliament with us in this term, representing the Liberal Party. But when it comes to getting even more women representing the Liberal Party...
Gender quotas, is that idea better than gender quotas?
So, Julia, when it does come to those two ideas that you mentioned, there are other ideas people would put forward. My focus, like Susan Lee's focus, is on the outcome, and that is having more women come forward and represent the Liberal Party, represent their local communities. The mechanism of how that gets done, there will be healthy debate, as there should be. That's what the Liberal Party is all about.
Do you back the idea of the US-style primaries or not? Do you back that idea?
I'm not going to be backing any specific idea. I will work with Susan Lee to make sure that she, as leader, me as deputy leader, is fostering healthy debate about how best we can get to the outcome.
Thank you very much for your time, Ted O'Brien. Lots to discuss. We'll chat again soon, no doubt.
Look forward to it. Cheers.